Would have reminded you. Okay. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Tonight is the Southside Community Council Development Activities meeting. Just wanted to welcome everyone, and being that it is December of 2022, how depressing, but we will be moving into 2023. I just wanted to share some damn accomplishments for the year. According to my calculations, which very well could be wrong, we did 11 dam meetings in 2022, which is pretty impressive for the Southside Community Council. If you don't know, we are a all volunteer resident-based organization that is also a nonprofit within the Southside Flats. So it's pretty impressive to have this responsibility, and to having that many meetings during the course of this year shows you what's going on in the Southside, and that people want to do projects here, work here, and live here. So of those 11 dam meetings, we reviewed somewhere around 21 projects over the course of the year. So I'd just like to say thank you for our Southside Community Council members, to our resident experts that are again on the Zoom tonight that share their knowledge base with us and help review these projects, all of our community members that join, our presenters that take the time. And I also want to thank our partners in city planning, Thomas Scharf and Phil Wu, who have side saddled us through this process again this year. Phil's no longer with the city, but Thomas is hanging in there. And once a month on a Thursday, we make their day at work even longer by joining these Zoom meetings. So thanks everyone for all your help and everything you do to support the dam effort in our community. So as part of the, as being an RCO, the Southside Community Council is recognized by the city of Pittsburgh. We chair the meetings for the Southside Flats, and these meetings allow developers, landlords, business owners, stakeholders in the community to engage in conversation related to the projects presented this evening. The bullet points below that are the requirements when people go to the city that trigger a dam meeting. And just to let everyone on the phone know, this meeting will be recorded and all comments from the meeting will be documented. Following this, following the 30-day comment period, the community council or a member of our local review committee will provide a letter with all the community comments along with our support or objection to the presented project. And this letter will be sent to the presenters as well as the hearing boards to which you are presenting. And if you want any more information on the Southside Community Council or the dam process, you can visit our webpage at southsidecommunitycouncil.org or the Department of City Planning's webpage for the city of Pittsburgh. We do have one presentation tonight. We ask that our presenters share their screen, present their documents, go through them very clearly, because we have some people that dial in to the Zoom that may be driving home. And so they like to listen in. There's various features on Zoom to participate. We ask that all participants wait till the end of the presentation. And if you are on the Zoom, to raise your hand so we can call on you, keep some semblance of order through the meeting. And then for call-ins, I believe it's it's *9 to raise your hand. So we'll use those tools tonight in order to answer any questions. So I'm going to turn this over to Michael and his team. You can take control of the screen and we can start the presentation for this evening.
I'm Roy Penner. Mike, unmute. I'm Roy Penner, Penner and Associates Architects. I'm here with Michael Elsman, who will be presenting the Berger Art Museum, which is a new building at the corner of Sixth and South, South Sixth and Bingham Streets. It is a private art museum that will be open to the public, but is a collection from the owner that he's building a museum for.
So Roy, where would you like to start here?
Site plan's a good one.
All right.
Currently, this is a vacant lot at the corner of South Sixth and Bingham Streets. It's across the street from where the empty lot is, from where the appliance warehouse used to be, if that helps anybody for the actual location. The building is approximately 9,600 square feet, under 10,000. And I'll let Mike walk you through the site plan. It fronts on both South Sixth Street and Bingham Streets.
Right. So
The parking lot is on the river side of the building.
So the current site is actually being rented to a tenant, a construction company. So our project will essentially be addressing half of that site. The other half of that site will remain as part of that tenant use, and they will continue to use the site. And everybody from zoning that we have talked to has assured us that we can do this project without officially subdividing the site, since it's all still going to belong to Michael Berger, so he does not need to subdivide it. But we are showing where that division will happen in the future. It's a line that was determined by a barrier that used to be there. So essentially we're treating half of this site as our project site, even though technically the entire piece of property is larger. So to that effect, one of the requirements that the client had was to maintain a 30-foot access road so that the tenant can still use the other half of the site. So everything was kind of based off of, creating that access. So that was a requirement from the very beginning, and then everything that kind of pushed everything else downward. So you can see kind of the existing site, the larger site comes all the way over to forget what this adjacent property is, but you can see we're only addressing the west half, a little less than half of the site. So our building, following the riverfront development requirements with the 10-foot build-to line, our building will butt up against both Bingham Street and South Sixth Street. And as you can see, there's a little bit of in and out of the building, and this was actually one of the variance issues that we had talked about. But so we will be up to that building line, and we create a continuous sidewalk and streetscape with the required amount of street trees, And our entrance is at this lower corner. We actually have two entrances, one facing Bingham Street and then one facing towards the river, towards the parking area. So the building will have access from both directions. The owner is requesting that we have a Bingham Street address, which is part of the reason why we want both entrances in both directions. And
So to the south of the building is a parking area for guests of the facility, with also a loading area and walkways to come around to the 6th Street sidewalk and then up the sidewalk to the entrance of the building. In a second, after we walk you through the site plan, we'll show you 3D renderings of the
yeah,
project.
it's a little hard to see. It's why I'm trying to
Yeah,
focus in on what we're talking about here, but
there is an office for the administration of the museum that has an entrance off of the parking lot, as well as the delivery and trash locations. Mechanical equipment will also be located in a landscaped area off of the parking lot.
and then to the east of the building, kind of where an important part of this site, which isn't clear here, is that Bingham Street actually slopes up higher than the level of this site, and there is an existing retaining wall that kind of comes across here. So this rear garden area is actually about 4.5 feet lower than Bingham Street. So we created this lower sculpture garden, we're calling it, that would be kind of a private space that the museum can use, for outdoor events, what have you. And we have kind of a terrace garden that steps down from Bingham Street into that lower area. But this whole section would be fenced off for security purposes because it would be part of the museum. So I know
Screen
that's
from the gravel
right.
truck lot.
And yeah, and obviously we want to screen everything from the construction company over here. So that would have a fence, which I know that's something that we need to talk about. And there will be a partially private outdoor space. So let me go to the actual plan here so you can see how the interior of the building kind of connects. So again, you can see the entrance to the building is in this lower corner, and you can come in from both directions. So, one that addresses the parking lot, so anyone coming from the parking lot would come in that way, and then one that addresses the street. And then there's an employee entrance that, faces the parking lot, and that's where the directors and the workers and curators and everyone, this little office suite is kind of the administrative end of the building. And then the loading dock and shipping and receiving, trash, all that stuff is kind of right in the middle here. And then it's not shown here, but all of the mechanical equipment will be along this edge here and screen, and that will be screened with a fence. I think it has to have a fence. That will all be screened, and then this will all be planning area along the back here. So that's and then the main gallery space is this eastern end of the building, and and then just a single door that opens into this outdoor sculpture garden, which again will be kind of this screened off area back here.
So you enter the building at the entry lobby there, and you'll be received by a receptionist. You enter then from the reception, which off of that entry lobby is also a coat hanging, drinking fountains, and toilet rooms. From the reception area, you will enter what we call the lobby gallery, And it will function both as a gallery and the lobby space of the museum. From the lobby where you have your initial transition to viewing art, you will enter what we call the atrium gallery. The atrium gallery does have a naturally lit by diffuse skylights and a ley light below, similar to the Carnegie Museum. So that is your second transition to viewing of art. Off of the atrium gallery is a multi-purpose room. As you proceed through the atrium gallery, you enter the main gallery space. This gallery is made up of essentially a pure geometry to give you a neutral viewing for the art, which will take precedence, although it has some natural divisions that you will see of this 9-square grid into 3 linear galleries. As you can see, the workroom and the preparation of shows will happen over in that staff area where we have shipping, receiving, a workroom, storage, the curator's office, an additional staff toilet room, and a conference room. The intent is to have not just art as a gallery, but other programming. This is intended to be a museum of artists of color, both Asian and African American artists, primarily. The permanent collection will also be supplemented by shows and featured artist work that artists will have specific shows as well that they can submit for a gallery show. This is primarily and currently an industrial area that has not yet seen the development of other areas of the south side. But as it moves to this area, we expect this facility to be a very nice asset, as the terminal buildings are about a block and a half away.
Yeah, to give you guys some site context here, this is what we're talking about.
Okay.
This
Thank
is, yeah, this is the property as it stands. This is the high line, and kind of down here you can see. So this is the property we're talking about. And this is the construction materials company that will still be operating out of part of the site. I think the division is about.
I think their lease will end eventually,
Yeah.
And then they will not be renewed.
Right. So going down South Sixth Street, here is kind of the existing site. You can see there's kind of this elevation change along the side. You can see that there is existing access to the site, and that's basically where our new curb cuts would be.
Where our access road for
We
the
are
balance
following.
of the property is.
Yeah. Yeah. So this would be about where that access road would be. And then our parking
And then-
lot kind of be this portion. And then the building itself would kind of be in this area.
Okay. I think next we should move to the model and the renderings.
Yeah. Do you want to look at the elevations first, or?
I'd go right to the model and the renderings, if you like, if that's
Oh, yeah, that's
easy enough.
So. So this is the approach from across the intersection here. This is Bingham Street going this way, and this is South Sixth Street going this way. So what you're seeing is that Bingham Street entrance. It kind of fronts directly to the street. You can see the lobby. You can see the glazing and the lobby be here, and then from the parking lot side, you would have. And then from the parking.
Maybe give them a top view if you could, so they can see the whole massing of the building, and then we can walk around it, Mike. The massing of the building is comprised of 3 sheds, as previous industrial buildings used to be. It'll actually have a white roof, and those panels will be the gray color that's reversed. So you see the
There we go.
the 3 sections of the building that form the whole building. What you're seeing on the roof, and like I said, that roof will be white, and it will have 2-sided solar panels. We did this configuration not just to recall the kind of industrial forms that used to be in this area, but to create northern clear story lighting in the galleries, natural lighting. By creating that stepped roof, we have clear story diffuse light that floods from the north, that floods the galleries, and that also gives us these 3 sloped roofs to place a solar array. We intend this building to be very low energy consumption, with the exterior and roof will be constructed of SIPS panels, structural insulated panels, which will give us an extremely tight envelope. We will not be burning any fossil fuels. We'll be all electric, and we will be providing our electricity to the greatest degree possible with our own solar photovoltaic solar array. We will be meeting all the stormwater and site planting requirements, also to keep the building green and use minimal water usage for our plantings and site development purposes, as well as internal use.
Just again, that overview of the site, you can see we've got the 10-foot build-to line and the street trees, and this would all be landscaped. And then this is that rear art area with the terrace garden stepping up to Bingham Street. And then again, we've kind of got this screening layer against the adjacent site. And then you can see the parking lot with plenty of street trees and screening. You can see we've got our trash and our mechanical equipment screened, and in the back of the buildings where it's not apparent. And then you can see our access points from South Sixth Street, both for the access road to the adjacent site and the access to the parking lot. which the parking lot itself actually kind of takes advantage of that access as well. There is an exit to kind of loop through for, when there's heavier traffic. And then you can see kind of the main frontage of the building is really on South Sixth Street. That's where the lobby kind of addresses the street, and we have this curtain wall and large amount of glazing.
The lobby gallery is the only gallery that can be viewed from the exterior. Being an art gallery, we pretty much have solid walls because of the use of the gallery. So the primary transparent areas are upon entry and the lobby area for viewing of the into the space to get a glimpse into the one gallery that we're calling the lobby gallery, which will have display art that you can see from the exterior, but then the rest will be, of course, the blank canvas of which the art will be displayed on the inside. We also expect that on this facade, there'll be opportunities for, of course, once the museum identity is defined on that entrance wall, that the two doors go behind, there'll be the building identity will primarily be, in other words, signage and their identity logo and things of that nature will be on that facade there. And then we expect that the exterior will get some display of art or mural work that will be commissioned work in the future.
Right. One of the things we really wanted to preserve was kind of this continuous street level wall here. Since this is, extremely visible, but, doesn't have a lot going on for it because it is the main wall of the art of the galleries. So one of the things that we had kind of envisioned and talked about was that this would be essentially a canvas that outdoor art could be displayed on. And for that reason, we really wanted to keep with a material that could be easily painted and repainted and kind of create this surface for whatever the curators decide to do with that.
And what is that material? Just since you.
So we would like to use just hardy panels, cement board exterior panels. You can see
As a rain screen
As a rain
installation.
Right.
So that'll all be flashed. We have the SIPS panels, and then we'll be furring and creating a rain screen. And
Right.
we were trying to do that with large surface panels. Right now, we're showing a running bond. On this wall, we might create framed panel areas that actually look like they are intended for murals.
right.
So would that be a hidden fastener system then, or are you going to try to expose fasteners?
We have the option to do both. If they were exposed,
They would be recessed and spackled over, and
it's a little
it will be concealed
Okay.
with
yeah.
a paint finish.
It's a little bit it's a little emphasized in this model. You can see the size of the joints. It will not be the pattern will not be that visible. It'll be much more subtle, much more like kind of this view from further back. You really won't see it. The horizontals you will see a little bit because they are flashed. So there is that little tab that will stick out a tiny bit, but the verticals are pretty much butt joints that will be painted over it. So it will be a pretty smooth white surface.
Yeah, we found from other projects that, and being an architect, I can tell you with the fasteners versus the hidden fasteners, it changes the look of it dramatically,
Right.
a monolithic wall to a one that looks like it's been shot up by 100,000 rounds of.
Yes, no, we intend to conceal the
They
fastener.
will be concealed.
Great.
And the idea is that we're really looking for a paintable surface here.
Right.
Can I ask a
And-
question before we get into materiality details? Because
Yes.
one of the reasons you all are presenting here is that you're going to require variances for this project. And I know that you just submitted your application to ZDR and they haven't given you a formal review, or you haven't really dug into possibly everything that you require in terms of variances. So I'd like you to address that list as you go through your design presentation, including the materiality, including
Right.
what you want to do versus what is required. If we could go through that list so our participants are informed of what we need to react on in terms of the development activities meeting, and then we can get into some of our commentary on, I think a lot of people want to know, I don't think the owner is on, but I think a lot of people have questions about the operation that if you all could answer, that would be great following that, and some other things I can go through real quick, and then we'll get to everyone for their questions and comments.
Yep. So we did have a preliminary review with the city, with zoning. So we had a pretty extensive meeting and went through a lot of this. So our list of the variances that we were addressing was pretty much from our discussion with them. So we're pretty sure those are the issues that are going to come up. There might be some that we missed, but that it was a pretty thorough meeting, and I think that we kind of hit the main points. So we're hoping there's nothing that we're missing. So let's just go down the list here. A number of them are actually all kind of addressing this facade, which is why we kind of started getting into that. So the first is that no facade adjacent to a street or riverfront can contain a non-articulated condition greater than 50 linear feet in length. So that would obviously be an issue with this facade. We can't really articulate this facade because it is an interior, a main wall of the interior galleries. You know, if we start messing with that plane and bumping in and out, you know, that would really disrupt the ability to display larger pieces of art. So that is kind of our main justification for keeping it the way it is, as just a single linear wall.
It will be broken up into 3 bays that will be less than 50 feet, just by the way we handle rainwater on that side of the building.
Right.
So
You can see there will be.
we will comply without a variance by that one element if we articulate those 6 inches in depth. So we will be able to break it up, and we will be compliant as we will need to bring it down and create essentially a 3-panel scheme for the murals. And that's why I was saying we'll probably create a framed arrangement there where it will look as though you have the ability to do display within the 3 panels. This rendering currently is in its design development, but we have not as yet done more than show you that we will be breaking it up into 3 panels of less than 50 feet. And those will be picture framed kind of panels.
So then the second variance item, again, in reference to this Bingham Street facade, is that the ground floor of a street facing facade must maintain a transparency of 50% measured as percentage of the ground floor facade floor to floor height. And once again, because this is an art gallery, you know, with some pretty expensive, important pieces of art, both from the client's collection and, you know, for whatever shows are going through there. We can't have direct exterior light. You know, this is a south facing facade. We can't have windows that let that kind of light into this gallery. That needs to be very careful.
Certainly for 50% of this facade. So
Right. So
unfortunately, that is a variance we will be seeking.
there's just no way we can have that much fenestration on this and still function as an art gallery.
As you round the corner, however, and other facades do have,
Right, and that said, you know, down where we're not dealing with a gallery, we're obviously doing as much fenestration as we possibly can. You know, this is all glazing, and then the South Sixth Street facade is obviously plenty of fenestration. It's just that Bingham Street facade, we just can't justify that kind of glazing because it just can't function.
so we will be asking for a transparency variance
Right.
for this project.
And then I guess the third issue with that facade, which is kind of what we had started talking about, was you have fiber cement panels listed as a prohibited building material. And I'm assuming that would apply here. We think it's the right material for this project. I think it's going to be way more, you know, affordable, and I think we are treating it in a way that is fairly elegant and, you know, not offensive to the community and as a design. And I think, you know, we're doing it carefully enough that I think it makes sense to use here. You know, we could use a more expensive material like a Trespa or a metal panel system and essentially get the same result, but it's going to cost our client, you know, 3 times as much. And we just don't think that's
And it is not something that has the ability to be painted
Right.
readily.
Right.
If there are intent to change the image of the building from a color standpoint as well.
Right. And I think that's really important for kind of the program here, is to, you know, create this canvas that can be painted and changed and evolve as the building evolves. So that is everything.
Three.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry, was that the only 3 or did you have others?
So those 3 were specifically kind of for this facade.
We are asking for relief from the maximum parking amount. We are exceeding the amount of parking spaces that is currently the maximum. It's very unusual to have want to provide more parking for gallery shows and events. And we feel the minimum parking amount is a little restrictive.
Right. And I think that with a program like this, there are going to be, you know, certain times when there are events, and that's going to need a lot of excess parking, and, you know, we don't want that to have to spill over and park on the street. And, you know,
Well, I mean, there is street parking allowed, and we are assuming that there will be some street parking
Right.
for, you know, a gallery opening, you know, a show opening, or an event,
Right.
fundraising event, or a programmed event that might occur at this facility.
Right, but as you can see, you know, we have plenty of space on the site to provide this parking and still provide, you know, proper screening and proper green spaces. You know, it's not like we're cramming it all in there. It's really, you know, we have plenty of room. It just seems, you know, it seems like almost a waste not to use that parking if we can. So that's kind of why we're asking for that one.
Or that RIV requirement, right? All of these are coming from the RIV zoning.
Right, and that's, yeah, exactly. This is all the riverfront development. I think we're the riverfront IMU, industrial mixed use.
I was gonna ask you, is that, and then just to clarify, since we're talking about this, is a museum an allowed use by right in the RIV IMU?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we're not asking for use variances. We're not asking for setback. We do comply with the front, you know, the street frontage setback requirements. The height of the building is right at the borderline of the minimum heights, the average minimum height. I
Right,
think if you include the solar panels, which are part of the roofing system because they're a two-sided panel using the reflection off of the white roof.
Yep.
They will we will just be with in inches of that minimum building height.
right. And that's something we had kind of talked extensively in our preliminary meeting because, you know, looking at these three facades, you know, our height is fine. However, on Bingham Street, because Bingham Street slopes up away from that entrance, you know, that corner of the building kind of sinks in, and that puts us a little under the required building height. You know, if you take the average, I think.
yeah, are you doing the average, the calculation the zoning code prescribes for average?
Right, yeah, so
Yeah.
it's the average grade, so we have to take, you know, where that is above the floor of the building and then the average of the roofs. You know, so if we do that on Bingham Street, we don't meet the requirements, but all the other three sides were fine.
And
So
you're,
that's that, so this is the part that kills us, and so that's where we're asking for a variance because we just can't make this building any taller. It just doesn't make any sense.
I'm sorry, any shorter or any taller?
Any
Taller.
tall. We don't want to make it any taller.
Okay, so it sounds like in the RIV, and again, I apologize, we haven't seen a lot of RIV and I haven't worked in the RIV a lot, but is there not exceptions for mechanical equipment and such on the roof for the height restriction?
Don't think there is.
It's a minimum height.
Right, that's the
It's
thing.
not a
This is the
maximum height.
minimum.
We're nowhere near any kind of maximum heights. The
Okay,
problem is
Right, it is a
they're
minimum.
saying a
4 foot.
24-foot average minimum height.
I gotcha.
And it's a one-story building, so in this configuration, our galleries will have a clear wall height of over 16 feet.
All right, so you're just hitting the minimum and you're missing it by a little bit on the Bingham Street. Okay, I
By
apologize.
a few inches, yeah.
Because Bingham Street slopes up and that throws the whole average off.
So you are gonna ask us for that variance as well?
Yes.
Okay, correct, thank you. That's the fifth one.
Yes.
Are there any others, Mike?
Yeah, so then another one is any roof that is visible from a public right of way must be 30-year-old architectural shingle or colored standing seam metal roof or a green roof. Now, as you can see in this rendering, I guess you would be able to see this roof from, you know, this would basically be across the street on the opposite sidewalk. So you would be able to see that a little bit. You know, maybe once you start walking up the hill here, you would get a little bit of that view. But the issue is that for these solar panels to work, the roof and the solar panels are a system. You know, as Roy was saying, the roof surface is a white membrane roof that reflects light, and these panels actually collect light from the bottom of the panel as well as the top. So that light bounces off the roof and will actually collect light under the panel. So if we are going to do this solar collection, we have to do a membrane roof. We don't really have a choice.
White, this will be a TPO white membrane.
Right, it won't be black like this, it'll be white. I don't know why that's black, but. So, but again, you know, this is really the only place that you'll even be able to see that. Kind of just coming down this hill here, you'll have a little bit of a glimpse of that. And as you can see, most of it's going to be covered in solar panels anyway. So that would be a variance that we would be asking for as well, because that's, you know, that we can't do a shingle roof and still do these solar panels.
We need that reflectivity of the white TPO membrane.
I think we understand that. I think the concern here is for our brethren on the slopes that have to look down on a bright white roof that can be reflective and in a negative way to them and others. I think as long as the solar panels, from my perspective, are kept on the roof as you've drawn them in the quantity and the coverage that you're showing, I think this is less
You can see
problematic. But if that's to be removed from the project, I think we have to go back to, you know, through VE or something. I think we'd have to stand firm on it being one of the approved roofing systems. So
yeah, we're looking at probably a 2-year or less payback. So I don't think it's going to be eliminated from the project. In the guarantee of the solar panels, this will actually be offsetting quite nicely the use of the building, its electric use,
that's good to hear.
after it pays it back for them. So this is a an actual a very strong item. It'll all be warranted for 25 years and should be a thing that does not get eliminated just because financially it's a big winner.
We're glad to hear that. That makes us all happy. Glad to see you're doing it. So just want to say, I think we'll mention that if anything else comes up, but I think that would be my one item we'd mention in our letter of support, that's contingent, I think. So just to let you know.
And then there is one more item, which I'm not sure is even would be considered a variance, but there is a rule according to the RIV district that curb cuts, including access to surface parking lots and structures, should be minimized along perpendicular connections to the riverfront, which would be South Sixth Street. We don't really have a choice because Bingham Street slopes up above our site, so I don't think we have any other option. So I don't think that's really would count as a variance. And also we would argue that this is where the access is on the site already, as we were showing you in the Google Street View. So I think we're justified in having our curb cuts along South Sixth Street. But you know, if it's not that simple, then I guess that might end up being a variance request. But I think that's all that we had from our discussion with zoning.
So is that 7 in total? Just to be.
Would that be I mean, that,
Yeah.
I don't know that was a requirement. It doesn't say no curb cuts allowed.
Right. It says should be minimized. So that's kind of a vague rule.
I wouldn't call that a variance. We minimized it to the
Well,
existing in one.
I just want to say, I think, is that road already there? And
Yes.
cut, is that a city approved curb cut already? Or is it just something that the owners previously put in and just started utilizing?
Well, I mean, just from our experience going for curb cuts, it seems like very few of them are actually city approved. So I'm sure we would still have to apply for it with DOMI. So no, we don't know for sure if it is or not, but
It's there.
But it is there.
Yeah, one could argue.
Obviously, they have one further up.
Right. Well, that's my point. I think you could argue that you already have 2.
Right.
Strictly, and you're just moving the one further back. But I think if you need the variance, I don't see why we would be against it necessarily. So,
Right, and like we said, there's really no way we can do it from Bingham Street without,
or that it would be desirable even
Right.
from Bingham Street.
we'd have to ramp down. It would be a whole, just wouldn't make any sense.
agree. So, okay,
So we think that the building is fully compliant, other than those slight choices that seem to make the most sense in the design of this project. We understand that they are choices, however, and we just think that they're the most rational for creating what will be, I think, a true asset to the city and to the community.
we agree. I do. I don't know about the others. I have a few follow-ups if that's the end of the
Agreed.
presentation.
Can you talk a little bit about the owners and really what the operation is here? Because if you Google it, you get I would say like an office on downtown that was last listed in like 2014 or something like that. And I don't think they're on the call. So I think there's a lot of people in the community asking, what the hell is the Berger Museum? We know the name, we know who owns the property, we know what they do here. What's the
So
story?
Michael Berger is a lifelong resident of Pittsburgh. His father, his family was in the industrial hose business, like pneumatic hoses and water hoses and any kind of industrial hoses for hydraulics, things of that nature. That business is no longer in the real estate, but he inherited approximately 10 acres in the South Side Flats here. And but by education, he is an art historian and has always had a love of art, an art collecting passion, and at one time an art gallery out in the East End where he dealt in activist Chinese art, Chinese dissident art, and other particular interests of him in the art world. He currently sits on the board of other art organizations, and in his advanced age has established his own foundation for a legacy to create an art museum that will be an asset to the neighborhood that his family has always been located in, and their business was always located in, and their real estate, has been. And this aligns with basically the legacy that he wants to leave, as he is 87 years old. And that's it, really. I mean, this is essentially a gift to Pittsburgh before he passes away. And he'll endow it. He is currently acquiring new pieces specifically as from artists of color. He feels that generally in the art world, some of that, that artists of color have been less recognized. And he feels that that's something he can also accomplish with this museum, is to begin to recognize artists that he thinks are doing particularly important work. So that's really the owner's purpose. He's always had a passion. He, like I say, he has, I think, art history, a master's of art history or from Yale, I believe. And, but has never, that has not been his occupation. That's been his preoccupation all his life. So, it is his passion, and this should be a nice legacy for his interests and an asset to the city.
Thank you very much for explaining that. I think a lot of people had questions around it, so that was great. Thank you.
That's great.
Go ahead, Mike. I know you had your list.
Yeah, I just want to go through my questions, and I apologize, I have to scoot in a bit here. So we talked about variances and the museum. I'm unclear of how you define half a property under, you're saying that it is, because the other half that you're not developing, the use of industrial use, construction, storage, lay down, that's not RIV compliant. So is that going to stay a non-conforming use for part of the property then? Or how do you, Thomas, is that something you can answer? How the zoning department's viewing that underutilized pre-use part of the parcel and why it doesn't have to be separated?
On that point, I'd have to, defer to the zoning team specifically. I know that I believe Michael and Roy, your team is kind of still submitting the final elements of this, then they'll have a chance to do the fuller review.
Yeah, the understanding was that this did not have to be subdivided to be compliant.
Right. And basically, because that was already the existing use of the site and that part of it just isn't changing, then they're not.
Temporarily, yes. I think that as that lease expires, I do not believe it will be renewed, and then that part will be available for client for other development opportunities, I would say. But currently it was not felt by anybody that it needed to be legally subdivided with easements created for access to that other portion of the property and whatnot.
I'm just more concerned about how it's viewed as I concern right now, I guess, as it stands, it's a non-conforming use to the RIV. So when you build the new here and you have a remnant piece left that's existing, non-conforming, is the zoning for the new property as complete, even though it's partially a museum, partially non-conforming, is it gonna fall on the RIV as its primary zoning? Or is it actually gonna say somewhere in there that it's partially non-conforming? And we have some legacy issues there that we're gonna have to deal with, versus neighboring buildings when it comes to all kinds of other things that non-conforming have to deal with that RIV don't. I guess I'm just trying to understand that from future concerns and problems. I'm not worried that that's going to impact you guys in the project. I was just trying to understand that from a practical purposes. So if you guys could muddle on that and maybe let us know how that's going to be viewed, that would be helpful.
You're not addressing Penner and Associates now, am I correct? You're addressing the city.
I think I'm asking you guys because when it comes to the non-conforming part of the say the neighbor wants to build something, say the neighboring parcel comes to us and say, oh, we're going to build a housing, but what are we? Are we 30 feet from a non-conforming gravel storage lot, or are we 10 feet from a museum in a RIV district? I don't know how that's going to be.
I think the way zoning was justifying it during our preliminary meeting was essentially, if it's not changing, then it can just remain as it is. Obviously, if they were to do anything over there, it would then have to be brought up to the RIV standards. But because it already is this use and has been for, however many years.
Yeah.
That as long as we're not touching that part, it can stay what it is. And everything
We're
that
not, so it
everything
is.
that we're doing is, we basically treated that, future division line as a property line and designed the building accordingly. So, this would have the proper setbacks, and the proper parking screening and the, so if that was ever to get sold and parcel it off and build something else, we would still be compliant. So our building shouldn't cause an issue. It's just whatever's over there, zoning basically said they don't see an issue. But obviously that's not official because we're not approved, but that's kind of what they told us is that.
Since in the sculpture garden, if it was two separate parcels, the fence would be a variance. If you wanted to go over or a different type of fence, because it's on the same lot, you could literally put a fence 20 feet tall and it not be an issue currently until it's separated, right? So
We'll make sure the fence itself, though, is compliant if it was two separate lots, however.
right, that's what I guess that's where I'm sort of digging into. There's nuances to
Right.
Yes, and we're doing the design as though it is two lots to avoid any of those leniences that we could take advantage of,
Right.
say.
okay. One of the RIV requirements is what's it called? Rainwater detention on the parking areas. Is that incorporated in here? Do you guys have a tank in the parking area or something?
Is, and
We will, we just, the stormwater is not fully designed yet because we just did our percolation testing and
Okay.
got the reports for the percolation and now it's being designed.
Right.
And then here's the $64,000 question. Are you guys including this road in those calculations since this is a new road? And is it part of this development or are you saying it's part of the old development?
That road, although you see paving where that curb cut is off of 6 is essentially unpaved and will remain unpaved. So it should not be part of the stormwater collection of this property, I don't believe. Do you believe it should be?
I believe if you pave it, and why I was led to believe that is because you're showing an arrow and an exit out the back on a 16-foot curb cut out onto that private street. Like that is going to be a method of movement, vehicular movement through the site. You're depicting it as if it's part of the way traffic is moving through your site, which means it's part of your development. If you didn't have that exit back there, then I would say that's just a remnant of what's there, but looks like you intend to use it. And I would say that it would have to be.
It is part of our site, but we weren't planning on paving it at this point. But that's I think that's a valid point. And if it did get paved, we just, dead end parking lots are no fun.
Yeah, I know.
So we thought, since we have this access roadway for the other tenant, let's just make it so you could kind of loop if there was no parking spaces, and that would be nice. Otherwise, if it wasn't that 16-foot area would be the turnaround of a dead-end parking lot.
Okay. In my experience, I would encourage you to move the ADA spots to the opposite side of the road, only because when you cross the road like that in a parking lot, now you have to paint it. They've been asking us to paint them to protect the people in handicapped individuals in wheelchairs and such. So you might want to consider that, but that's just a minor detail.
Yeah, we were trying to make it the closest, but I think that's a valid point.
Well, unless the sidewalk is the accessible route. I don't know what the plan is for that to get to.
It really will be.
Right. And that creates a problem too, because if they're over here, then you can't have direct ADA access right here because you don't have enough room to slope up. So they'd still have to come out this way, which
They don't.
either way, yeah. Because
Okay.
and then there's always the complication of if this is a
If
load.
we had a truck loading and
Truck
somebody
loading.
handicapped was coming, we would be
Yeah.
kind of blocking the handicap route for loading and unloading, even
So we-
trash pickup. You always run into that potential conflicts, which we can avoid by putting them on the other side there.
Right.
I'd leave it up to you guys. Just wanted to point it out. Um,
Appreciate that.
What type of construction is it? I see some wood. It looks like wood. Is this heavy timber or is
It is.
Yes, so we have some structural sections that I can show you. So this is kind of the standard structural section. The interior frame, the interior structure of the building is all heavy timber. It's all PSL beams, actually. So as you can see, it's 3 structural bays with timber columns and then timber beams running this way and timber trusses that aren't technically trusses. They're, basically 2 beams with connections. They're not, they don't have diagonals. They're not kind of one piece, but this would all be timber framed. And then the exterior of the building is all a SIPS system. Will be, I think, 10-inch or 8-inch SIPS walls and 10-inch SIPS roof panels. And all of that kind of sits outside of this structural frame and creates this, extremely well insulated skin that, kind of protects the building. And it's all, and then it's all just on a continuous concrete slab that, is basically the entire floor of the building. It's extremely simple.
I like it. And it's sprinklered. I saw a sprinkler room, correct?
Yes, it will be fully sprinklered.
The occupancy, the occupancy count, I know it's early, but you've probably done some preliminary. Again, it depends on the type of art, the type of space, how much area you're gonna use for your count.
And we do have all of that, actually. So obviously most of it would be A3 because is a museum. And then there'd be a slight amount of business occupancy and a slight amount of storage, but I think those are both small enough that they would be, accessory to the A3 occupancy. So, so the building's only 9,500 square feet, which means our total occupant load is only 269. So, it's really not a huge building. It's not a huge occupancy. So.
Okay, that looks good. I was just concerned if it was greater for any reason, the way you were looking at it. And it seems like the bathrooms are the right size and the amount of exits and such. So
We got all that.
just checking there. Thank you. And the lighting of the parking lot, I forgot to ask when I was talking about the drainage. Are you lighting that road as well then by the placement of the lights? And I think they have to be dark sky compliant now in the road,
Right.
correct?
We do have that. At least mostly,
Preliminarily,
yeah, we're still
that has
working
not been
on everything with our
finalized.
consultants, but he does have that.
Right now, you're looking at pole lighting.
Right, so he has pole lighting in the parking lot, but we weren't doing anything specifically for the access drive.
Okay,
We're trying to, I'm hopefully gonna convince them to eliminate the 3 poles on the building side and use wall packs off of the building, but we currently, he put 3 poles on that.
I think, Roy, we're getting rid of this first one, but I think we have to keep these 2 because we can't throw enough light from the building to properly cover the parking spaces. But this one we can move to a wall. I did talk to him about that.
and we love the street trees, and we're assuming all the sidewalks and curbs where needed are new. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's all gonna be new.
I mean, you saw the picture of what's there,
There's
right?
only sidewalk for about 15 feet and then it just ends. So
I mean,
So,
we
yeah,
expect that this will set the tone for a very nice development of what is currently, unpressured, undeveloped area of the south side.
right. And I know that there was a little bit of conversation about some existing trees on the site. But I don't think any of them are
We
any
would not be
worth saving.
if you're gonna add all those trees around it, that I think that
Right.
far outweighs the benefit of any of the scrub trees.
Yeah, there are a couple big trees down here, but those aren't actually part of our site anyway.
Right.
Although I think they are part of the property
Yeah,
down here, so those might come up in our zoning review, but we're not doing anything to them, so shouldn't matter.
Okay.
What you're seeing is there is a little planting buffer, which I believe will remain intact along Allegheny Ford Trucking. We're keeping,
Our
we're
property
basically,
stops this side of that, so that'll all remain, all this planting here.
there's you're saying, right? For the survey?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
you see how that paved area goes so far and then ends.
Yeah, and that's why I was thinking that you were continuing the paving to make it nicer to drive on and then
I don't know whether the owner wants to invest that in the property. He might, it'll be scrubbed off and probably gravelled, given what the use of the property is right now. I'd rather leave it permeable and not pave it at this point, but
well, gravel isn't considered permeable. So, but this might be whatever's there. So, but okay. That's all what I had questions wise. I think, it's exciting project. I'm very happy to see it. So thank you for bringing it to us. And oh, the signage, if you are going to put signage, you'll have to come back to us if you're going to be over the requirements for size and lighting. And we know it's a museum. It might be a little different than standard business signage. So please put that in consideration.
right, yeah, and we haven't quite talked about that with the client. I think they're still developing, kind of the whole identity of this as a museum, so they're not quite there yet, so, but I'm sure we'll be involved.
we don't have a logo or an image, a true identity developed. That's not in our scope of work, let's say.
Well, we did, just to let you know, the High Line did this huge mural there that we're gonna unfortunately be taking part of that down because that doesn't meet the compliance. So that's the type of thing I'm worried about. I don't want you guys to do a large mural thinking it's compliant or be allowed, and we're gonna have to ask you to paint it over later. So please come to us as soon as you have an idea, and we'll punt it around with you. So.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. We're hoping that as we develop that canvas on the Bingham side, that we'll look at those requirements of size and maybe break it up into panels that meet those individual signage sizes, maximum sizes, so that we kind of create those framed areas for either art that is intended for the exposure to the elements, or custom painted murals of things like that.
Great.
I think that's,
I
that's where we will take our cues from that.
thank you guys. Appreciate it.
I have a few comments and just a couple of questions. First off, bravo, this is awesome. I love it. I love the simplicity. I love the formal sort of industrial sawtooth roof put into new use. And I love the severity of it. And going back to the variance items, the first one on the list about articulation, if you could twirl that around 90 degrees, Michael, to take a look at the, there you go. Yeah, I don't think that downspouts as means of articulation are very strong as a means of articulation, but I think the severity of the formal language of this would even be improved without the downspouts. If you could get them like behind the rain screen, still on the wet side of the wall, and just have a giant long wall, I would support that. I mean, you know, articulation in this case, to me, is the formal articulation. And I think, you know, breaking it up into little 50-foot picture frame whatevers is, you know, maybe great for some other building, but not this one. I think the severity of it is in the plus column. So anyway, I would advocate for
Well, we appreciate that. We had it that way, and then we said, we have this code requirement that we have to get a variance from.
it's an ordinance, so, you know, but you're going for all these other variances. I'm just saying, I'm not speaking for the whole crowd here, but I would support that based on the rest of the project, because it, to me, seems consistent to itself and its contextual fit in this industrial, formerly industrial.
We haven't shown shrubbery or any other garden planting along this walk either, which I think will help that.
No, the
You know,
severity.
it's just shown without that, but I think that there'll be some planting as well.
Well, I'm just saying the severity is a strength. So, and the simplicity is a strength.
Thank you.
That's the message on that one. So,
Peter, I think it's also important to say that I'd rather have it be a variance where we've allowed it than it be accepted and become a standard that can be utilized, you know, as a precedent for another development where we.
no question. I'm just saying, based on the strengths of this design, they can pull it off. I don't think any Tom, Dick, and Harry could pull it off. I think this building could. So that's my message there. And ditto on the 50% transparency thing. No, you don't. Yeah, I support the variance on that too, because it goes to the simplicity, the function, the sort of industrial formal precedent. So I think that's great. So no problem with that. Fiber cement, love the stuff. Minimum height, yeah, that doesn't seem like a showstopper to me either. I think you've handled it very sensitively. The white TPO, I guess my only concern, and I like the whole idea of this, you know, just the way that you're presenting it here. It's like this white sort of series of shapes, interconnecting sliding shapes. So the white roof with the white-ish walls are great. My concern, and maybe this is more of a detailing thing for later on, but it would be unfortunate to have like enameled aluminum coping or something. Like if you could figure out the detailing in such a way that, you know, here's your roof coming across, and then your fiber cement comes right up to it, like super like a Swiss watch. And you know, figure out the detailing behind the scenes, keep the water out, but that you just have this super clean transition, super clean edge. I think that would really sing. So, and same thing with, you know, the whole gutter and downspout thing. I'm not trying to design your building, but, you know, if it were, you know, like a Yankee gutter even, you know, you have that, it's just this behind the scenes thing, and the downspouts are behind the rain screen. It's just this magical crisp shape of this industrial past. I think that would be lovely. So yeah, white TPO, just, yeah, careful about the coping.
Well, there will be no coping, but
Yeah,
yes,
all right.
right, the
great.
termination at the end will be,
Hide it, hide it behind the rain screen, you know?
I got you.
Yeah. And on the max parking thing, I'm not sure how many more spaces do you have than you need? I'm just wondering.
I think our limit is 14. Is that right, Roy?
Yeah, we have a half a dozen or so, maybe 8.
Or the minimum is
They-
14, so that's our maximum.
Okay,
I think it's
So-
basically like you'd calculate from the square footage of the building
Right.
and then
I think
do
it's
the-
to 13 or 14.
okay, well, yeah, one
Depending on
thought
the
I had
use.
about that, you know, if that's a showstopper, I don't know, but if there's another paving material that, you know, maybe part of the parking and, you know, immediately in front of the museum is asphalt or permeable asphalt or whatever, but on this slot of space on the side where you have the sculpture garden, if the paving might change to like those grass pavers, you know, that you let the lawn grow through, or something like, you know, a change of material that, yeah, you can use it for overflow parking, but it's not this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
14 through 21, you're saying make those grid blocks, paving grid blocks.
Well, continuing the line of the sculpture garden, you know, like maybe reconnecting it somehow with this other alternative paving. I just, you know, if that turns into a showstopper with your stormwater calcs and whatever, I think, you know, it would tie beautifully with your site plan. And then my last comment was, and I can't tell dimensionally, but street trees, they're asking for 30 square feet of tree grate or whatever you end up using. So I just wasn't sure if those were 30 square.
Should be big enough. I think they're 5 by 7.5 or something.
Okay,
But they are, they're size specifically for that.
okay, all
And
right,
they're sized so that that pinch point's not less than 5 feet, I think. So they
lovely.
should all be compliant, you know.
All right, well, those are my comments. I think it's an excellent project, so thanks for having a great client who wants to do great things.
Thanks, Peter. Hey, we have a question in the chat from Quaylin. Is there a reason that they want hardy board that can be painted rather than their existing colors, which will show no wear? I haven't seen these panels before. Will it look like siding?
So.
It will not look like siding.
No. See if I can actually find an example.
The module is much greater than any siding would normally do. It looks like a big running bond of massive proportions.
Yeah, so the way, so I don't know if this is a good example here, but so essentially this system treats the hardy panels basically the same way you treat kind of these modern rain screens.
Oh,
You know, whether it's
okay.
ceramic, the big ceramic tiles, or, you know, like a Trespa synthetic
right.
system, you know, it basically treats the hardy
Aluminum
panel
system.
as that. You know, so it's, so as you can see, kind of this example here is, you know, it's kind of these large format, just smooth, clean panels with, you know, with just kind of this little pencil line at each joint. You know, it's a very simple, you know, here's even.
No, that's
white.
fine. I think you answered my question.
Right, so
And
that's
the
what
fact
we're
that I
shooting.
the fact that I can see it in some other uses that are real, that changes it a lot. I mean, I heard you say you were looking for something that you could paint. And the only reason why I'm asking this question is because I have hardy on the front of my house, but I chose one of their colors
Right,
rather than having to continually paint it. But am I assuming that there's not a color in their, you know, in their selections that are the colors that you want to paint it? Is that why you're painting
No,
it?
we
so
might
that
get
there's
it
upkeep?
we might get it pre-finished. However, the finish that they would put on it is also paint.
right.
Well,
Yeah, I
right,
think
but
the
when
idea
they-
is that that we can change the color later, I guess, is more the goal, you know. the
Oh, okay.
the
I
ability,
understand.
yeah,
Okay,
the ability to do different things, and you know, whether it's solid colors or whether it's some sort of art installation, you know, maybe there's a giant mural that is the whole front of the building, or you know, different, just giving it the ability to do different things, or what maybe, you know,
you
maybe,
answered my question.
right.
Thank you.
So that's our goal. That's why we want to.
Go back to the picture, Mike.
Yeah.
The other material we really haven't mentioned is those clear stories at the Sawtooth and the parking lot side. We're currently planning on using a material like cow wall,
Right.
just to give you an idea.
Right. So basically, so yeah, so these portions that are in the art museum, those wouldn't really read as windows, you know, because they're kind of a translucent, you know, semi-transparent panel. So they would kind of have, you know, kind of like this, they would, you know, blend into that surface pretty well, but they would let light in.
Quite a bit.
Right.
We'll use the most light emitting panels that we can, but we're not talking about necessarily a glass or a window.
Right. So that would clearly be different than out front here, where these are, you know, very much a curtain wall glazing system.
But that will bring natural light into each of those galleries at
Right.
3 locations.
Yep.
From the north.
So will the cladding be white?
Initially,
We
yes,
think,
we
yeah.
believe it will be.
Mhm.
The owner has expressed a desire for
Mhm.
essentially, I guess, a white building.
We have a question in the chat from Jane. The long wall that we're discussing, are you concerned about graffiti? Might you consider a mural on that side? I'm sure there's a lot of people asking that question on the call due to the fact that it's a pretty accessible, gigantic piece of wall at grade. And, you know, there's a pretty big lack of respect in terms of the difference between a graffiti artist that will not touch or tag a piece of artwork from another artist and just idiots.
I think that's a valid issue, and I think that we'll try and do a less accessible planting buffer against the wall, so that walking up to the wall, in other words, a hedge of some sort in that what is shown as a grass area, so that getting actually to the wall is a little trickier than just walking up to it with your can of spray paint.
Right.
Best include some barbed wire that will then be electrified to really work, because a hedge isn't going to stop anyone from doing what they want to do on that pristine surface day one. Trust not me, but everyone in the community that's dealt with graffiti for a really, really long time. And, you know, that goes back, that's a huge concern, and that should go back to the owner in terms of asset preservation and operate in a budget to.
And what has been the solution? I mean, there are paint coatings that graffiti can be scrubbed from, and we would look at those kinds of coatings. But other than that, is there, you know, given that razor wire is not compliant in this zoning district,
Is if it's more than.
and is not a variance we are willing to ask for, Were you suggesting another solution? As someone who's been dealing with it?
Jane put in the chat, what about ivy or planting on that, or on that wall, I assume she's asking.
No.
Green walls have, I think, some appeal, and we could talk about that. Other than that, in some places, including, PNC's building, they have been less successful than we like, the green exterior vertical walls. But I think it is for a rain screen building, ivy is hard, it then starts to go a ventilated rain screen wall, ivy itself is would be a nasty thing. Because every joint between panels would be a location where roots would find and start going into, would be a kind of a over time building destroying thing,
I think on the graffiti question, the great thing about hardy panels is they're painted. So if there's graffiti, you can paint right over it. It's not
Right.
like, graffiti on a masonry wall or graffiti on a limestone wall or graffiti on 410 or something like that. To me, it seems pretty maintenance friendly in that way, the material selection.
Yeah, somebody graffitis, you just paint over it.
Right.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons that we,
Right.
we wanted the flexibility to just paint, right?
And the client has the manpower currently, with his properties that, he would rather spend the money to just repaint things when he has to than, to have to deal with an extremely expensive material that, you could easily white paint off of.
Yeah, right. And, the planting suggestion, however you develop that sort of front yard,
Right.
that could be another deterrent. It could be another sort of design expression.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Do you have any other questions from anyone on the call? I think we covered everything that was put into the chat. Mike McKay just wrote in the chat, watch what you say about painting over graffiti. You'll be inviting more graffiti. Thanks, Mike. Anyone else on the call have any other questions or comments in regards to, first and foremost, I think it clicked off as 7 variances at this point that we reviewed, plus any of the actual aesthetic design details that were discussed this evening. No?
I think I would just like to say, repeat, I think what Peter and Michael had said. This is, it's just a very nice, it's a nice project. And I do appreciate the art that the owner is interested in displaying. And we do look forward to seeing the finished product and enjoying it.
Great. Appreciate that.
Oh, thanks.
Well, if there are no other comments, just to wrap up, for housekeeping, the public can give the Southside Community Council additional comments within the next 30 days after the dam. If you'd like to send us comments, you can do that via email at info southsidecommunitycouncil.org. This project will present in front of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. You can also provide public comment there. Instructions to do so are on the City of Pittsburgh's webpage under Department of City Planning, Zoning Board of Adjustment. You guys just put in your application. When would you be going in front of zoning? Just so folks have an idea of the time frame.
Not sure we know yet.
Okay.
Probably in January.
I think more February because of the 30 days.
Yeah.
So since we're in the end of December, it would probably be beginning of February would be, might be the earliest.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, cool.
As soon as we can is the answer.
All right. Well, if we have any other comments or questions that we need answered for the community, we'll go ahead and pass those along to the design team. And hope to get a reply on any of those prior to the 30-day mark. So if there's nothing else, I think we can adjourn. Thanks everyone for participating tonight. Thank you to the team. Thank you to the project. I think everyone's going to be excited about it. And thanks for a great year of DAM meetings and exciting things happening in the South Side. So happy holidays and have a great new year.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for all your constructive.
Thank
feedback
you.
as Well,
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jackie and Barbara, too, for all your work this
Thanks,
year.
Waylon.
Thank you.